It's been a dirty secret of the criminal justice system for a long time. Thousands of people going to jail for minor offenses like spitting or drinking in public. But now a new policy in Manhattan will let police officers decide on the spot if you get handcuffed, a summons, or just a warning.
Me, unfortunately, I was put through the system and I did not belong there for something that was very minor, and that, you know, the penalties are very harsh, especially on the minority.
Eric Gonzalez says the arrest cost him his job. He believes police officers should have options when dealing with offenses like urinating in public or riding a bike on a sidewalk. That's the plan devised by Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance and Police Commissioner Bratton.
What we've attempted to do is give them more discretion. Give an oral warning, give a written warning that we'll be developing, give a summons if appropriate, or make an arrest if that's what's necessary.
The change comes as the police department says overall crime is at record low levels, yet tensions between police and communities of color remain a concern. Bratton says they are drawing one hard line.
You smoke marijuana on the street, you're going to probably be arrested. Look at our arrest numbers, they're up for that offense. A lot of people didn't get the message last year that you cannot still smoke marijuana on the streets of New York City.
Critics of lessening the penalties for quality-of-life crimes fear it will open the door to the bad old days and create a climate of disorder and danger on the streets. But former NYPD Lieutenant DARRIN PORCHER says it doesn't need to get to that point.
It's something that should be constantly looked at to ensure that we're not going back to those earlier years of the 1990s, where we had upwards of 2,000 homicides here in the city of New York.
Now let's find out how this will all play out in real life with our panel. Joining me in studio is David Chianese. He's a former NYPD detective and president of LESMA, a law enforcement support organization. David, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
We appreciate it.
I'm gonna go harder than them. I'm gonna go harder than them.
Also with us, Mano, the one and only Brooklyn-born bred rapper.
Yeah.
You've been real busy lately.
Hey, I have to be.
I'm just looking at this list. Upcoming mixtape with Uncle Murder called
Definitely.
Yellow Tape.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. You just came off the movie set for All Eyes on Me, the Tupac pick.
Definitely.
And you got more stuff in the works.
Hey, listen, we gotta be busy. We out here. We got people to take care of. We gotta inspire the youth. We got a lot of things to do.
Exactly. Hustle hard all day, every day.
All day, every day.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back on Street Soldiers with us again.
You know what? This is starting to be my favorite place.
That's great. Also joining us is Kenneth Montgomery. He's a professor at Fordham University Law School. He's also a criminal defense and civil rights attorney and a former prosecutor. Ken, I want to start with you on this. When we talk about quality of life crimes, what kinds of things are we talking about here?
Well, you're essentially talking about selling cigarettes, like Eric Garner was doing. You're talking about riding your bicycle on the sidewalk. You're talking about having an open container in the street, urinating in the street, crimes in that category.
And then in terms of the way that they have previously been enforced, I talked to a guy this week. He was had a full-time job, had a career going, a young guy, was just starting out. He got arrested for an open container, and then because of the arrest and having to go through the system, ended up losing his job.
Listen, there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have been incarcerated, jailed, central booking, held maybe a day or two before they saw a judge. And in my opinion, I think to be in a civilized society, for us to think that that's okay, I think that's a problem. And finally, you have some district attorney's office who are taking the right approach.
All right, and we're going to talk about that too in a moment. David, I want to bring you in as a former NYPD detective. You were out on the streets. Your organization works with a lot of police officers right now. What are your feelings about the way these quality of life crimes, some are getting arrested, some are not? There's different plans coming into effect.
There's a lot of confusion, both for the civilians and for the law enforcement officers. There does need to be a reform, 100% guaranteed. I don't think they're doing it right in the sense that get your facts together, figure out what it is, release it to the public so you don't have this. People drinking containers thinking, hey, it's okay, I'm going to have a few beers. They're getting approached by the cops. They're going to get issued summonses. There's arguments. You're creating the situation yourself. Better to generate the plan 100%, release it to the public. This is what we're doing. This is what we're on board with. Our officers have been instructed, and we're going to do it. The administration is just completely out of whack on this. they're really behind the 8 ball.
And there's a different kind of like different laws and different policies in different boroughs.
Well, not different laws in different boroughs. The penal law is the same. The legislature hasn't changed anything. It's just how the policy is implemented by different district attorney's office and how the policy is implemented in NYPD. Different precincts have different precinct conditions. You know, in one police plaza, you have all the big wigs who meet monthly or even probably weekly to discuss crime and statistics. So it seems to be that some confusion, obviously, but at some point I agree that there needs to be some dissemination of the accurate policy that each borough or each district attorney's office is going to take, as well as the New York City Police Department.
And Police Commissioner Bratton says they are going to be working on something to get out to people so that they understand what the law is. But Mano, one of the reasons for this too, on the political side of it, is the pressure from the communities of color that feel that they have been, you know, disproportionately targeted for these types of arrests.
Not even feel, that's a fact.
A fact.
It definitely is a fact. Like, because what other community are they doing those arrests in? They not on the Upper East Side or the, you know, the West Side, where it's a lot more you know, life is a little bit different. They're not in these places. They're not in these environments. This only applies to impoverished neighborhoods, the ghetto, you know, and you would think some of these, I always say, like,
Oh, just say it. You don't have to be all.
Shouldn't we be concerned about more bigger problems?
Coming up,
there's a disconnect socially between, you know, the community and the police and how they deal with us.
While I don't like the idea of people spitting and urinating in public by any means, I don't think they should necessarily go to jail for it.
we saw the Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance say that he is going to have some of these low-level offenses, that
quality of life,
spitting, which we're talking about.
Spitting on the sidewalk. And let's think about that. Someone goes to jail for spitting on a sidewalk. That just seems.
So is that a quota thing? Because I'm trying to understand. Like,
that's a money thing.
A money thing. Spitting on the sidewalk, open container,
all those things
riding your bike on the sidewalk.
All those things are so you can receive a summons. And there's something that everyone should read in the public. It's a report that was just put out about Ferguson, the Department of Justice report. And it talks about a lot of this stuff turns into money because there's a summons that's generated.
Right.
How that case gets disposed of then is usually a fine, or an ACD or something, or a violation. And that goes to the court. If you don't pay that, you don't show up, you get warranted. Which means police officers now have to come look for you, bring you back to court. So it's a
still wind up paying.
Yeah, it's money.
And you have an open warrant on that.
Yeah.
What about that, Mano?
Yeah, you still wind up paying, regardless to what. I think I agree with my guy. I think it comes down to money. You know, we going to jail for spitting, open containers, some of the stuff. I feel like we should be concentrating on bigger things, bigger issues with the country, bigger issues that's going on in the community that we getting harassed about nonsense. Like, you really want to talk to me and harass me about this nonsense?
But this is what the Manhattan DA said. He said there were tens of thousands of these cases that they were clogging up the court system when they had more serious things that needed to be, you know, to go through the process much more quickly.
Arraignment night, this is all you see.
Right.
This is a bunch of petty nonsense. Those are not even crimes. Violations, driving with no license, all this and that, and suspended license. Like, come on. Things that can be written off as a DAT, desk appearance ticket. You give me my ticket, give me my summons, let me come later on and pay my fine. Stuff like that. It'll make the whole system smoother.
But you know what? It's also too. It depends on who the individual is. You know, you have everything's got to be a case by case basis. There are people out there that don't deserve a ticket because you know them, you deal with them, they're constantly getting stopped. You put them through the system. There are plenty of people that are going through that do not need to. There has to be some type of an agreement reached, and it should be publicized once it's done, not when it's halfway through. The DAs have to get together and make a point and come up with a plan and release it.
Okay, but let me bring it back to this. Bring it back to the streets and to the general public. It's like if you, Cyrus Vance, the Manhattan DA, said that this is a way, you know, the police officers will have discretion as long as there's not a public safety issue. I mean, if somebody's drinking with an open container and then they're cracking the bottle and then, you know, slicing people with it or throwing the bottle, that's a different thing. They're going to get it. That's something different. But my point is, it's like that's just Manhattan. So how do you know? Like, if you're, how do you know if you're in Manhattan, it's not happening? And And then you go into Brooklyn, and then it's a whole different
over
thing.
an invisible line.
Listen,
right,
now
or
all
you
of a
go into
sudden-
Queens.
You know what? Listen, I've defended cases in every borough, state and federal. Each office has its own policy. You know, Cy Vance may say that, but also he has cases in his system that he deems more serious than Brooklyn or Queens, and it's vice versa. So what I think is going on here is a political PR thing. You have New York City Police Department are pulling in one direction. You have the mayor's office is pulling in another direction.
A tug of war.
Then you have the district attorney's office pulling in a different direction. And although they work together, everyone is trying to paint themselves in a certain way to say, yo, I'm not the cause of this mass incarceration. I'm not the cause for the inequities in the system.
But I also
But
don't.
Mayor, what about
ripped apart.
Yeah.
Well, all that pulling going on, the community is getting
They
ripped apart.
suffer, and the reality.
We suffering.
The reality too is, the frontline cops, the guys I care about, are the ones who are going to get torn up
Yeah,
and
that's-
left.
Well,
I
Maynard,
agree.
but what
And
about the
you-
frontline
and
people?
what-
What
in
about the
regard-
frontline people on the streets?
Oh,
What about the frontline people on the streets?
Exactly. But
What about the people on the streets?
We jammed up. We jammed up because we get into these interactions with these police. We not knowing the difference between the policies between Manhattan or Queens or Brooklyn, and we going into these places, and then we continuously push through the system for violations. For violations, for menial things, for menial time, wasting our time, coming out, jamming us up. We supposed to had a job interview, or supposed to was trying to intern for Hot 97, whatever the situation is. And with Lisa Evans can't get there because I'm jammed up for a suspended license or something that could have been written off as in a few minutes.
Handled. And handled in a
And
totally
I think
different
what we all are saying, at least it sounds like, you have some police officers who are trying to do the right thing, but they don't know what to do.
Right.
You have a community that's historically been disenfranchised, alienated sociologically, politically, economically, and then that all clashes. And so, if these politicians are going to come out here and make these grand statements, what's really going on and what has to be done to avoid the Eric Garner situation?
Hold that thought for a second. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to Hot 97 Street Soldiers, now on Fox 5. We're talking about quality of life crimes, the impact on the community, the police, and what's really going on. We'll be back right after this.
I think it's going to make it real crazy. I think it's going to be, everyone's going to think that it's okay to do whatever.
People understand who have never been in this situation, who are listening to us right now and watching the TV show. What is it like when you're doing nothing wrong and the cops roll up on you?
It's very disheartening. And if you have to go through the system, it's even worse, because it just spending those hours, is degrading. It's disgusting, and it bothers your self-esteem. You understand? And especially for a person that's not really a criminal. You have criminals, and you have people that are into that life every single day, and that's what they do. But then you have people that what they call as violations. Open container, or may have spit in the street, or didn't check the mail and didn't know that their license was suspended, and now they got to spend 12, 15, 16 hours going through the system. It's heart-wrenching for some people, and then because then you treat it like a criminal, you talk to like a criminal, because instantly the first thing is, where you going, your license is this or that, and then you go through this just to get to a judge to tell you that you got to pay a fine,
To go through all that humiliation and then that mental stress.
Smelly, you haven't showered, just to go through this, and it's crazy.
And what about the ongoing stress after that? Is there like a residual stress where you're kind of looking at your whole situation when you're walking down the street like, whoa?
Well, some people definitely, because then you like shell shock. You can get at any moment, at any time, any given time, you feel like you could be pressed upon about nonsense.
Yeah.
You understand? Like things that are really not even crimes. So it's you're always going to have that defense mechanism after you've been put through these situations. And if it's happened to you more than once, then you already know. And this is probably not a black man in this city that hasn't been put through this in some kind of way,
or at least stopped and questioned, or something.
Of course, questioned to the point made him feel crazy.
Yeah.
Like that he's not even attached. See, my problem with a lot of officers is that you talk to me like I'm not even human. You talk to me like I don't pay taxes, and I probably make more money. I do make more money than you. Like you talk to me like I'm beneath you, like instantly, you know. So it's like, why? Like, why we can't deal with each other on a human level? Like, if I done something wrong, cool. Then, you know, then if something needs to happen, then that's what it is. But there's a disconnect socially between, you know, the community and the police and how they deal with us. So if there's a disconnect and they've been taught to deal with us a certain kind of way, there's always going to be an issue.
What about, David, what about that? Because that's
well,
something. That's
first
something.
things first, Lisa, I apologize, but cops pay taxes too.
Yeah, so, we all do. We all do. That's my point.
Check,
we all do.
I hear, but my check, 55% of it disappeared in taxes. I pretty much paid my own salary. I'm not saying you're saying you pay our salary. I'm just saying it is out there.
Some of the precinct community councils that I've seen, like the community representatives, they'll be the elders from the community. They'll be people that are, you know, involved with the churches or the educators or whatever, which is fantastic that they're doing it. But it's like the people that they really need to have at that meeting are the ones that are getting stopped.
Yeah, but the ones who are dealing with, not even stopped, just the ones who are that are actually getting robbed, the ones who are being harassed, both by cops or by other people, they need to be in. Not the community leader or the pastor.
Where did it have this idea that the community is out to get us?
Because you know, unfortunately, historically, the community. You got to look at some of these communities, and I don't mean to go on a tangent, but they were created through certain federal policies, through regulation, through real estate laws, through economics. All these things created these communities that were impoverished and were lacking. As a result, the law enforcement took a paramilitary stance. You can look in the 50s, you can look in the 60s, you can look in the 70s, you can look in the 80s, 90s. Black Hispanic communities were police. You know, you have politicians who dog whistled about welfare moms, thugs. That was all for our communities. And they approached it in this stance, and they stayed there. They haven't evolved out of that stance. And the community, as a result, we have been fragmented. We've been fragmented by politicians who line their pockets, preachers who line their pockets, the churches who line their pockets, and the community, the schools suffer, no jobs are created, and we're looked at like we're the problem.
David, what about the attitude of police? There's some former police officers, recently former police officers, who say that the actual way policing is done now, not just in New York but in the United States, it's out of step with the times. That people have changed, that communities have changed, that our ways of talking to each other changed, and that policing is still has that one model of like, you do what I say or else that's it, you're getting cuffed.
Absolutely. There's definitely a disconnect. You know, listen, police departments nationwide, the morale is down. It's destroyed. It doesn't matter what department you go through. They feel like they're under attack. Rates of assaults and whatnot against cops is going through the roof. So they're on the defensive. You know, that's creating a bad situation, too. The reality is you're not going to solve this problem. We're not going to solve it here. We're not going to solve it out in the waiting room. The reality is these departments and these politicians have to get together and start doing it right.
So what do we do? What can we do here in New York City?
In New York City, we need to, I agree, we need better leadership. We need to have more town hall and forums and meetings, and we need to discuss and reflect. I think people are afraid to discuss race. They're afraid to discuss class. They're afraid of these things because it's positional.
We want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, we gotta.
We like to with street soldiers.
We have to reflect. We have to reflect and get people who've been in the job and have different experiences and life experiences and figure it out.
Well, I want to thank all of our guests for this fantastic show. An episode of Street Soldiers. David Kinese, former NYPD detective and president of LESMA, a law enforcement support organization. The one and only Mano, straight off the movie set. All Eyes on Me, the Tupac pick, coming here to Street Soldiers. Watch for his new mixtape with Uncle Murda, Yellow Tape, that's coming out, dropping soon. I'm sure he's got a few other little things popping he's going to tell us about too. And also Kenneth Montgomery, professor at Fordham University Law School, one of our most prominent criminal defense and civil rights attorneys here, and a former prosecutor. I want to thank you all very, very much for being part of this episode of Street Soldiers, and I want to thank everybody for this discussion. Let's keep it going. Let's do it another time. I'm Lisa Evers. I hope you have a great week. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. Let's push for peace.